There is a building on the Las Vegas Strip that you have walked past 1,000 times and never thought about. It's not abandoned. It's not half-built. The glass is in. The facade is finished. From half a mile away, it looks like every other tower on the boulevard. Clean, reflective, modern. But no one has ever slept inside it. Not a single guest, not a single night. And the reason isn't a fire or a flood or a bankruptcy. The reason is 62 pieces of paper. In 2005, MGM Mirage had an idea. Not a hotel, not a casino, a city. A 67-acre development on the corner of Las Vegas Boulevard and Harmon Avenue, the single most valuable intersection in the American West. They called it City Center, and the price tag, $8.5 billion, the largest privately financed construction project in United States history. Think about that number for a second, $8.5 billion. The complex would have 5 towers. Aria would be the mega resort, with 4,000 rooms and a casino the size of a small airport. Vdara would be the all-suite hotel. Crystals would be the retail corridor, a glass sculpture of a shopping mall. And the Mandarin Oriental would anchor the north end? But there was one building above all of them that was supposed to define the whole project, the Harmon Hotel. For the Harmon, MGM did not call a Las Vegas architect. They did not call a hospitality firm. They called Norman Foster. Sir Norman Foster, Baron Foster of Thames Bank, a man who had designed 30 St. Mary Acts in London, the building the whole world calls the Gherkin, the man behind Apple Park in Cupertino, the Reichstag Dome in Berlin, and the HSBC headquarters in Hong Kong. A Pritzker Prize winner with 6 decades of work that reshaped skylines on 5 continents. Foster designed a 49-story oval tower, blue glass, checkerboard cladding curved against the desert sky. 400 hotel rooms operated by the Light Group. 207 luxury residences stacked above. A sky bar, a spa, restaurants, all of it sitting on a 2.5-acre footprint at the busiest pedestrian corner in Nevada. It was going to be the jewel of the most expensive development in American history. Construction began in 2007. To build a project at this scale, you need a machine, a construction machine with hundreds of moving parts. Perini Building Company was the general contractor, one of the largest in the country, with a portfolio that included stadiums, hospitals, and casinos across the American West. Pacific Coast Steel of San Diego handled the rebar, the reinforcing steel that is literally the skeleton of every high-rise ever built. Halcro Yoles was the structural engineer of record. Their job was to design the bones, to calculate exactly how much steel goes, where, what size, what spacing, what depth inside the concrete, down to the millimeter. And then there was Converse Consultants. Converse was the third-party inspector, the watchdog, the independent set of eyes that was paid separately by the county to go to the site every single day and certify that what was being built matched what had been approved, that every pour was correct, that every steel tie was in the right place. By the summer of 2008, the Harmon was climbing fast, 22 stories up and accelerating. From the Strip, it already looked like a Foster building, that unmistakable curved glass catching the desert light. Everything looked right. And that was the problem. To understand what went wrong inside the Harmon, you need to understand one specific structural element: link beams. A link beam is a short horizontal coupling member that ties a building's shear walls together. They don't sound glamorous, and they don't look impressive. But in the event of an earthquake, when seismic energy travels up through the foundation and tries to tear a high-rise apart, link beams are what stand between a building that sways and a building that collapses. Rebar inside a link beam is not optional. The size of the bar matters. The spacing of the ties matters. The exact placement within the concrete, down to the inch, matters. Get any of it wrong, and the wall does not bend under lateral load. It snaps. In July of 2008, inspectors from Clark County, not from Perini, not from the project, but civil servants from the county building department, arrived at the site with the permitted structural drawings in hand. They compared what had been approved to what had been built. They did not match. Across 15 of the 22 completed floors, between the 6th and the 20th, the rebar inside the link beams had been installed in the wrong position, the wrong size, or in some places simply not installed at all. This was clearly wrong. The structural heart of 15 floors of a 22-story high-rise had been built wrong. Construction halted immediately. But here is the part that makes this story what it is. This had not just happened. It had been happening for months. Between March and July of 2008, a 4-month span, inspectors from Converse Consultants filed 62 daily inspection reports certifying rebar work on those very floors. 62 reports signed, dated, submitted to Clark County. 62 pieces of paper that said the building was safe. The building was not safe. The defects were not caught by the contractor, not by the structural engineer of record, not by the private inspectors who were paid specifically to catch them. They were caught by county civil servants who showed up with a clipboard and a set of drawings and noticed that the two did not match. The most expensive private construction project in American history had a skyscraper with forged inspection reports. September 2008, Lehman Brothers falls. The global financial crisis does not care that they had the world's most famous architect and an $8.5 billion vision. MGM Mirage's stock goes into freefall. By spring of 2009, the parent company was within weeks of bankruptcy. A new chief executive officer, Jim Murren, walked in the door and found a balance sheet that needed a $3.88 billion refinancing just to survive. In that climate, finishing the Harmon as designed, even if the structural problems could be solved, was no longer possible. In January of 2009, MGM canceled the entire 207-unit residential component. The tower was scaled back from 49 stories to 28. $600 million in remaining construction costs were deferred. The shell topped out at 28 floors in December of 2009. The glass went in. From the strip, it looked finished. The lights never came on. By March of 2010, construction had officially stopped. The Harmon sat dark, a finished-looking building with no function, surrounded by the completed towers of City Center. By November of that year, MGM did what companies do when they have a problem they cannot solve. They covered it up. Literally, they wrapped the entire strip-facing facade of the Harmon in a massive vinyl mesh advertisement, tens of thousands of square feet, advertising Aria, Vdara, Crystals, and the Mandarin Oriental, the very buildings that surrounded it. A Foster skyscraper turned into a billboard for its neighbors. The Las Vegas press had a name for it by 2013, the world's most expensive billboard. In July of 2011, MGM hired Weidlinger Associates, one of the most respected structural engineering firms in the country, to answer a single question: can this building be saved? Their report was not ambiguous. The defects, Weidlinger wrote, were so pervasive and varied in character that no quick fix, temporary or permanent, was possible. Just figuring out what a repair would require would take a full year of analysis. And then came the structural conclusion. In a code-level earthquake, using either the original permitted loads or current building code, critical structural members in the Harmon would fail. They would become incapable of supporting gravity loads. The building would partially or completely collapse. MGM's own court filings put the probability of a triggering earthquake in the Las Vegas basin within 30 years at 50%. In March of 2012, MGM's own structural engineer testified in open court. A magnitude 7.7 event would be enough to topple the Harmon Hotel. Las Vegas sits on a seismically active basin. People forget that. The building had to come down. They couldn't implode it. The strip is too dense. The casinos on every side are too close. The airspace above is too valuable. A traditional implosion, the kind they use in controlled demolitions, was not an option. So, in the summer of 2014, after a court-approved demolition that MGM sent workers up the tower in respirators behind a black mesh shroud and began taking it apart by hand, floor by floor. For 14 months, from late June of 2014 to August 4th, 2015, workers dismantled a 28-story high-rise one level at a time. working their way down from the top. The deconstruction alone cost $11.5 million. On August 4, 2015, Jim Murren stood in front of cameras and said that the nightmare that was the Harmon was over. By late September, the site was scraped to ground level. It became the tallest building in United States history ever voluntarily demolished for construction defects. The record still stands. The legal war settled on the courthouse steps, the morning that opening arguments were scheduled to begin in December 2014. MGM paid Perini $153 million. Perini paid MGM $11 million. Insurance brought in around $85 million more. No criminal charges were ever filed. Not for the 62 falsified inspection reports, not for any of it. In 2021, MGM sold the bare 2.5-acre lot, the most expensive corner in the history of American private construction, to Flag Luxury Group for $80 million, 30 cents on every construction dollar, for an empty patch of desert. In April of 2023, a 4-story open-air shopping mall called 63 City Center opened on the site. 228,000 square feet of retail and dining. Anchor tenant, a $20 million steakhouse. The footprint that Norman Foster designed to hold a 49-story tower now holds a 4-story mall. The Harmon was a $275 million skyscraper designed by the most decorated architect alive at the center of the most expensive private construction project in American history. It was also a building whose structural steel was misplaced across 15 of 22 floors, certified safe 62 times by inspectors who certified nothing, scaled down, abandoned, wrapped in a billboard, condemned, and taken apart by hand. Both things are true. They built it. They couldn't fix it. They couldn't even blow it up, so they unbuilt it.